that's good. Uh-huh. I'll tell you this. I may not know what to do with children, but I love them. And I think I actually really fell in love with all children at this spectacular last year, children and teenagers. I had known a long time that that's where it was. And I had known that it was just smart to love children, and it's what God suffered the little children. I knew by the Bible, I knew what was right. But last year, as I spent some time at the other spectaculars, I fell in love with those kids. I realized they don't care how old you are, they don't care how young you are, they don't care how sick you are, they don't care. All they care is how much you love them. They are so hungry, they are so wanting to have a touch, that personal touch, that they really don't care much about what you look like. It's unbelievable. I know they like to have you look nice, but that's the least thing that's in their minds, if they get some personal touch from you. And when I went over there and spent time with the high school, 400 teenagers, I spent time with 400 teenagers and gave them silly little rubber plastic bracelets. I think they were, how much for how many hundred? Give me some wild guesstimate. 5,000 for $70, and they put them on, gobs of them on. I promised them that I'd wear them, wear mine for as long as I could. And as I got, my cancer came back and was more and more. I was so swollen. I was getting lines into my wrist, and finally, I forget what month, I finally took it off and put in the paper in rejoicing, I think, that I had to take them off. I believe I did that. But anyway, I've gotten letters back since that said that even after they knew I took mine off, they didn't take theirs off. Ladies, I'm sorry, but I don't think you do that with me. It was to promise that we'd remember that we were going to live for God. We had the things why we were wearing those bracelets. I don't think you do that. And I think all you have to do is love them. I think all you have to do is listen to them. I think all you have to do is really look at them and turn off everything else. Just turn off everything else. The other night, a young girl was over with me from 3:30 till 9:30, and I turned off the phone. I'm not sure. I think I had to take some calls, but very short. Am I right? And told you what they were about and all that type of thing. And I saw to it that everything shut down. Everything except a video. We watched Sarah Plain and Tall, Hallmark Hall of Fame. They did dance in the Kansas dirt, but we talked about it. If any of you saw Sarah Plain, have seen that. And this young lady who was watching it with me had seen it numbers of times, but we stopped and talked about it. And Sarah, like when Brother Dan Wolf, wasn't that great? Wasn't the whole thing? Dr. Howe's boy, did we get where home is. I thought, boy, home is an evangelist RV. If you have no place else to go, you have no headquarters, you have nothing. It's you anyway, so it doesn't matter. That's what you know anyway. It's what you all know, that have a little room, but how he brought it out and helped us to know. And grandmas, it might be where you are when they have grandma. It might be where you are, Sunday school teacher. It might be where you are, church bus captain. It might be where you are if you've have some people sitting around you in church and you say their parents don't pay much attention to them. Then why don't you pay some attention to them? Kids need us badly. I don't care what else you might think. You might not be able to. I'm not talking today about correcting them. I'm not talking today about disciplining them in the wider sense of everything's discipling children, yes. But I'm talking about just giving them attention. I'm not talking about giving them a lot of things. I'm talking about giving them your eyes. And not you talking about yourself. And not you lecturing. and not you correcting. And this is so hard to do. I want to give little lessons. I found myself giving a little lesson about Sarah Plain and Taw. When Sarah and that man were coming down the haystack, I said to the girl, now see, that's just why you ought to not to have too much fun with any man to whom you're not married. Now she was married to him. I said, they're falling in love now if they're having fun together. I was moralizing with the girl, for I knew what I was doing. And she wasn't even having any problems with that. You know, I just thought I would just get it in there, I guess. You know, we were just trying to have some fun. We are so scared for them that we just want to yak, talk to them about everything under the sun until they're a nervous wreck by the time we are through with them. You know, they're supposed to be having fun. When have you ever had just fun and just listen to them? And listen. People, I do listen to kids. I shut my mouth and listen to kids. It just about kills me. But I do it. Because I got plenty to say about everything. And I believe there's kids here who would say I have listened to them and kept my mouth shut when I wanted. And you know, they say something like, you know, they don't believe this anymore, and they think it's all right to have these friends. And I, oh boy, I mean, I want to. And sometimes if you'll just shut up, they'll start saying. About an hour later, they'll start saying, you know, I don't know whether I should have those friends or not. And I just go, really? Like, oh, wow, goody. I just done all I could do to not go, oh, honey, that's wonderful. Go forward next Sunday and make it public, you know, that you're giving them up. You know, I have all I can do not to jump up and rejoice, you know, which would just, oh, what are you thinking? I just about hyperventilate. I have to get a brown bag just to listen to them. You know, what they can work out for themselves if we would shut up. Those are the two best words I've ever said to me, I think. I know they're hateful words and you're not to say them to anyone else, but I won't listen to hush. I won't listen to be quiet. I'll only listen when I think, shut up, Marlene. And Frida Kahlo says, I pray every morning to keep my big mouth shut. And she has to get harsh with herself, too. I mean, some of you might be able to be nice to yourself, but you know, there's a few of us that just have these big mouths and have so much to say, and no one wants to hear it. It's a terrible, terrible predicament to be in. Well, some of you wanted to see my daughter and had planned on it. Some of you don't even know that she was to be. And I sent out a letter and said she'll be at my side and all this type of thing. I am so glad she's not. She's by her husband where she's supposed to be, who is very sick and is having tests today and has been in the hospital and very bad for a couple weeks. And we don't know the whole story yet. We know several things, several diagnoses and all that type of thing. And I'm not disappointed she's not here at all. When Cindy said, I'm beginning to see the fruit, I thought, what a rich life she has in store for her, because I know how she's lived. I know some of how she's lived. And she is just beginning. It's going to get better and better and better. I get to be here and see the fruit of my daughter knowing her place and staying, though her husband said, go on, don't worry, go on, I want you there. She didn't listen to that at all, and I'm very, very proud of her. I'm very excited. Don't listen to him about, there's some things you don't have to listen to him about. Isn't that wonderful? Woo! When it's something for them, you know, like that, you know, but that's, you know, I know some of you thought it was, you know, but you know, he said, no, I don't want you to miss that. And I was with him when he was saying that. Now he said, now Mom, I want to get with you in the study. That means when we say in the study, that means we got something to say to each other. And so he said, I want to get with you in the study. I don't want her missing that spectacular. And I said, yeah, And I didn't listen either. We neither one listened to him. And you know what? He showed that he really didn't care if we listened. He knows he needs her there. I'm seeing some fruit today. I'm seeing some fruit From my daughter not being here. I'm seeing some fruit in these books from people who came to our school, two of them that were up here, who I think both were 17, one was 17, maybe 18, I'm not sure, when they came to our college. And I've been with them over 20 years, off and on, off and on. How many years? How many years? They can't count well, but they sure do help with books. I want to, this is fruit to me. I'm going around hanging on to them, you know. I really am. I want that people who were up here last night to come up here in the same way they came up here, they come up here now the same way they did last night. If they can, please. If some aren't here, that's fine. And I want is Elaine Bogus here? And Bev, you are here. I see you. Come up here. And Elaine, I'm not sure. Okay. Will you start giving books to the people? Chris, Jane, Loretta. I want you, when you get marriage without divorce, to notice that I wouldn't do anything about putting out these books. I knew I couldn't. I knew I couldn't do anything. Not anything. I wrote them. I wrote it, and that's all I could do. And there's a lot more after it's written. A lot more. And so, Bev, the publishing of this book would not be possible without the help of Skip and Bev Buskell, published in honor of their parents, Keith and Ardell Kelly, and Peter and Olga Buskell. By the way, the Buskells are celebrating their 60th anniversary right this year. And then Elaine Bogus, I don't believe is here, right? She is. She's coming. She's still coming. Okay, all right. I'll read to you what she said, what we said on the dedication, the publishing of this book, Relationship Without Regress, and that's about marriages, but children and mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, and stepmother and steps and halves, and I started to say Dan and Jan. Oh wow. And then preacher. Oh wow. That's all. I went home and I just kept saying, oh wow. The truths. And those truths that Dan and Jan were given, come on down, hon. Those truths Dan and Jan were giving would be just as good in a family that wasn't blended. And I also wanted to bring out, all those pioneer people, remember when there was a death, they didn't even have time to fall in love. They just married and didn't live together as man and wife out of convenience for the children. Remember that? They had to. You know those old, Jeanette Oak books and stuff like that, So, yeah, that certainly isn't new. Elaine, have you seen it yet, your husband's picture? Did you like it? Oh, good. The publishing of this book would not be possible without the help of Elaine Bogus. Published in memory of her husband, the love of her life, Jimmy D. Bogus, Knox, Indiana. Jimmy was the self-sacrificing father of two boys, Thomas and Timothy. He was a very godly man who in an unassuming way cared for his church bus kids at Gethsemane Baptist Temple, Ober, Indiana, pastored by Brother Max Hardy. Thank you so much, you people. Again, I kept thinking, what could I say to you? I don't know what to say to you. I have no idea already what it's done to help me put my I have drawers full of things that I just write down and never get them out, never get to them. Already how it's helped me to speak. I can't even tell you. I just thank you for everything any of you did. All right, you may be seated, and thank you, and clap for them again, would you please? What fruit? What fruit? It's just beginning. It's just beginning, Cindy. This is tremendous. In talking about children and tempering a child's personality and all like that, I was coming from Mayo last week after they had gotten I have autonomic neuropathy. And I've known it for a year, and that for no unexplained reason, I'll go to 200 pulse, and if I'd sit still and just move my hand, like when I got into the emergency room at St. Mary's, just move my hand, the thing, went like that. Let's see, chemotherapy keeps some of the automatic things from working without medical nerve damage, just nerve damage. And so I have a permission to be very nervous now. That's what I got from that. But we've known I had that, but it got it was dangerously so starting a week ago Monday. And they regulated my medicine in the hospital and so forth. And and then I got to come on home, and Jeff got stopped and is seeing liver doctors and so forth. So the boys were coming to some people that they're second best friends. Oh, that's who I said that about. Oh, my wicked tongue. Anyway, I hope those people never hear it. They're not here. They're busily homeschooling my grandchildren. We could say bad things about them while they're doing all those good things for us. On the way back, young ladies who Miss Castile had come to get me and bring me home, they went by to Milwaukee so that the boys could get into their schooling and get back to some normal schooling and so forth. And on the way back, all the way back, a 14-year-old boy, an 11-year-old boy, and a grandma talked all 5 hours. I mean, we were in a car, trapped. My cell phone wouldn't work. Besides that, I have rules on my cell phone. Excuse yourself from a group in order to make a cell call, just as you used to do to make a payphone call. In a situation that is inconvenient, to excuse yourself when placing a cell call, ask permission to place a call. Let the recipient of the call know you are limited in time and you can only do urgent business. Talk distinctly enough to be heard by the receiver, but not so loudly the whole group is hearing your business. You know, you go to restaurants and get in on sex talk. You know, they're planning their next sexual escapade. You know, right there. You know, on the phone. I mean, I've heard it. And business and money and I don't know what all, you know, and man alive, you know, be considerate enough to go to a lobby or restroom to place a call. Gladly place short calls before the group you're with if it's for the good of the group. Limit the number of people who can call into you. In my case, that's none. I don't even know my own number, but my sister caught it on her caller ID and knows it, but she doesn't use it. I don't know how to take them anyway. But some of you do need to have that. Some of you, the riders and the walkers, that's their only phone number is a cell phone. But in my case, I don't know that anything that I need, that I'm so needed that I'm pretty needed. I feel needed, but I don't think I'm that needed that I have to have, you know, I've lived all my life without, having a cell phone. It is a wonderful thing for me, safety and to call ahead and save myself strength and energy. It's tremendous if it's used correctly. Avoid making cell phone calls while driving. Turn off your phone and let voicemail take over to give attention to the people you are enjoying right now. People no one. I'm afraid none of you are getting attention from anyone. I'm not sure. I think you're so whatever that word is. You just can't believe it when someone really zeroes in. That's why these kids. Is this where they're meeting over there? Wherever they're meeting. That's why these kids are in such a dangerous situation, because somebody for a time will give them their eyes and shut their mouth and listen to them and touch them. Yeah. Turn off your phone. Okay, try to wait until you're alone to check voicemail and return calls. Common sense is not too common anymore, but let's use the little we do have. And be ye kind one to another, Ephesians 4:32. I don't know my cell number. Can you quickly tell about, I don't know my cell number, Carol? Can you make concise it? Yes.
I was on a trip with Mrs. Evans to take her to Mayo Clinic, and we left a little later than we were planning to. For those of you that like to get up early and get on the road, you know, I do, but we had a little party we had to go to. So we were in Milwaukee, and it was January, and it was, you know, it wasn't that bad of a storm, nothing like that. There was a little bit of rain coming down, and it was about sunset time, and I was doing the speed limit, 65, and we were zooming along, and all of a sudden, the car, I started to swerve, and you know how when you fishtail, you're supposed to turn into it, and I turned the wheel, and that usually works. Nothing worked. We just went flying off the road. It was absolutely the most horrifying experience I've ever had in a car. there was nothing I could do, just like you were whirling around like that. And we whirled up in the air, and it was happening so fast. I couldn't even know that it was happening. All of a sudden we landed in this big poof of snow. And my first reaction, I'm responsible for her. She's a chemotherapy patient. She can't get out in the cold and walk. My thing is frustration and anger. And so we're flying through the air. We land in the snow, and this snow just flies everywhere. And Mrs. Evans goes, "Oh, thank you, God. We landed in a pillow of snow." And I am like, I look at her like, "Oh, stink." I am sorry.
Christian cursing.
And so I'm looking at her, and she's like, God could have put us, we could have landed here, we landed in a pillow of snow, and the car is just fine. I go, how do you know the car's fine? We're sitting in a ditch. We don't know what's underneath this car. Snow was all the way up to the windows. And I am just doing a slow burn, because I'm thinking about how are we going to get out of here. I'm being the practical nurse that has to take care of this, this jewel that has all these great ideas. And I do it. I love her dearly. And really, I felt guilty. I felt responsible. Like I had done something wrong, So we're sitting here, and I'm doing this slow burn, and she's like, "Isn't God good?" I mean, she's just like, and she really felt that way, It was not an act. And so I get out my cell phone, her cell phone, of which no one has the number. She does not have the number. So I start to call, and I say,
AAA.
AAA, yes, this is, Marlene Evans, and by the way, we're in her husband's car, of which I don't know what it is, And,
what kind?
And so he says, "Where are you?" I go, "I don't know. I'm in a ditch somewhere on 94, just past Milwaukee. What kind of car are you in?" "What kind of car is this, Miss Evans?" "I don't know. I don't know what kind of car I'm in." "Well, can I have your number?" "Miss Evans, what's the number of the cell phone?" I don't know my number." "What's your license number?" "Sir, I don't know my, can you get out of the car?" "No, I can't get out of the car. I don't know my number. I don't know who I am." And Mrs. Evans says, "Now, Carol, I want you to have instant peace." And that's the story of the cell phone without the number.
And what we ended up doing, a tow truck did come after us, and you asked somebody about what to do in Black Hawk.
Here's how positive this woman is. We're in the ditch, and all these, unbeknownst to me, trucks, cars, everything had flown off the highway up ahead of us. And here comes a woman policewoman. Now, I'm still doing my slow burn. I still feel like I should have done something, different. I didn't recognize, it didn't seem wet. There was just a little tiny bit of drizzle. I thought, maybe I was going too fast. And so I said, "Oh no, a woman policeman. Bless her heart. She's out here in this snow, coming to help us." This is Mrs. Evans.
Sounds sickening, doesn't it? Makes me want to barf.
That's exactly how I felt. So she comes over, and I said to her, "This lady's a chemotherapy patient." And well, she said, "There are people in the ditch all the way up, like 5 miles, and it'll be a couple of hours before you get out of here." So Miss Evans goes, "Isn't this wonderful? We'll just write some articles while we're sitting here." And I'm still doing my slow burn, And really, I was mad at myself because I didn't leave earlier. That's really what was going on inside of me.
Well, we had a best year's party to go to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, and I remember that my fiance at that time said, "Why are you leaving at 2:00 in the afternoon?"
Because we had that best year's party.
Right. I tried to explain to him that Miss Evans had a party to go to that was very important. And so anyway, we were going back and forth, and she's trying to get me to be creative while we're spending 2.5 hours in the ditch.
But we did get 2 articles.
We did. Mm-hmm. So we got, the man came and towed us out.
It's that hard to get them out of you, too.
The man came and towed us out, and when we got down to the gas station, I was signing, the paper, doing the paperwork and everything, and one of the reasons I was doing a slow burn, because I had to do the paperwork, and so I'm in there taking care of it, and he said, "You were on black ice." And I had called Skip Buskell, because he helps take care of Mrs. Evans' cars and maintains them, and he said, "When you're on black ice, there's only one thing to do. Sit back and enjoy the ride." And that's what Mrs. Evans did.
I don't know my cell phone number. It keeps a lot of people out, but it keeps some that you might want in. We've talked, of course, Proverbs 22:6 a lot. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. Train means to direct growth, To direct growth doesn't mean particularly this isn't right then, maybe spanking. It is not correcting, not nagging, not speaking, not yelling, although all those, I mean, yelling is appropriate. You see someone going into traffic, scream. Get back here. You know, I mean, all of these can be appropriate. I mean, even nagging, I guess. That is adding to a child. A weakness can become a sin. And therefore, when we've got a weakness, all we're trying to do right now today, and what I'm talking about, is just add to a child's personality. I've had many good teachers. As far as women are concerned, up until my adult, up to my adult years, I didn't have a teacher that really captivated to me until I had my Sunday school teacher, who was my adult Sunday school teacher at Highland Park Baptist Church under Dr. Robertson in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And she's got to be about 100. You know, she was still alive, because I was 28 and she was in her late 50s, I think, when she was my teacher. And Isaiah 30, 20 and 21 really keeps coming through to me, because what she said to me and what she taught me keeps coming back to me and back to me. And though the Lord give you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, yet shall not thy teachers be removed into a corner anymore. Cindy's teachers, you see, aren't being removed. She remembers what her dad said. She remembers what her mom, what her mother-in-law, people she's talking about. She remembers. One thing she remembers is because she's one of the most outstanding people who ever locked eyes with a teacher. I mean, she knew how to put her eyes on you and put everything else out. And I think I called her Cindy Scott last night. She wasn't Cindy Scott when I saw her do that. Cindy Hiles, Diane Smith, Beth Streeter stood out in my classes. There were others, I'm sure, but every class they were in, I never saw their eyes off their teacher. They can't miss. They got to get something. I'm not like that, as I told you. And we have to work at it and work at it really hard. We have things to say about, about the service. Isn't that great? And stuff like that, and everything, but it still distracts people around us and still isn't what we should do. And the water of affliction, yet shall not thy teachers be removed into a corner anymore, but thine eyes shall see thy teachers. You want your kids to see their teachers, and one of them's you, the main one, hopefully you. And thine eyes shall hear a word behind thee saying, this is the way, walk ye in it, when you turn to the right hand and when you turn to the left. Isaiah 30, 20 and 21. I have a teacher who's talking to me over my shoulder all the time. I have others too, but I'm bringing her out. As my Sunday school teacher of 11 years, I have her talking to me over my shoulder. I have her, she'd be the one that would be saying to me, when I say something like I was telling about comparing people and things like that, and having that rotten stuff coming out of my mouth, she'd be the one that would say, Christians don't talk like that. Actually, I don't think people think it's too bad to talk like that. She did, I think it's, all the Christians I know talk like that. I told her that, in fact. I said, all the Christians I know talk like that. Well, she just didn't think it was a way for Christians to talk. So you have your kid lying. Tempering the behavior of your child, the personality. You have your kid lying. Maybe exaggerating the truth. When I was in kindergarten, we had a little house in Blue Springs, Nebraska, and I was in kindergarten, and I was going from 4 to 5 in November, started in 4, not because I was precocious, but because I was old. I mean, I was born wrong, whatever. Anyway, we had the people come to my house for a birthday party, and I went around telling everybody I had 90 people in my house for my birthday party. I don't know that there were 90 in the school. I think there were 400 in the town. But people, I don't know that I was lying. I was seeing it really big. I'd never had 9 children in my house at one time, but I needed to be held accountable for exaggerating the truth. A weakness can become a sin. A lot of times kids will joke around, and then you catch them, they go, I was joking. Or they'll lie, and you'll catch them, they say, I was joking. They can't joke it off later. You don't have to yell and scream and holler over and over. Make him tell the truth. Face them with the real truth. Help them see what will happen in the future by allowing him to lie. If you allow him to lie and get by with it, help him to see what's going to happen. And also, the best thing is to face him right when he's small, with truth. Up until my dad passed away, as long as I could talk to him over the phone, I was checking my stories with him to see if they were true. Stories I told from my childhood and teenage years and that type of thing. I did not trust myself because he had to too many times make me face up to things. When I was about in the second grade, I came home with one of those penny sheet valentines like this. Some of you remember them. They were a penny or 2 cents at a dime store. In our little town in Wymore, we only had the dime store or the drugstore where you could buy them. And it was a poem clear from here to here about Mom and Dad and how wonderful they were. And I said, Mom and Dad, I wrote that. I thought I could get by with that. You know, I'd never written roses are red, violets are blue and finished that, you know, and they knew that, you know. And they didn't, I don't remember their saying anything. I just remember they're saying, where did you get it? How did you, do it and everything? And I remember going back to the dime store with Dad and looking at Valentine's and finding that what I had written was published and it was being sold at the dime store, Ben Franklin's store. I mean, that was humiliating. And so then I remember the beer bottle. I 2 cents for a bottle. And I went past Scoggins Drive-In on my way home, and the people could throw out their beer bottles, and it belonged to Scoggins Drive-In. I went and got one, took it in, got the 2 cents. It was their own beer bottle. Got home, Mom saw I had 2 cents. Now that would be considered nothing. I understand that, but then it was still considered something to have 2 cents. She knew I didn't have 2 pennies, and she got me to tell where it was. And my mother walked back with me to Scoggins Drive-In, which on a hot day, which is a big thing for somebody crippled with polio. And I still remember standing at the counter telling that man I stole his beer bottle. And here's the 2 cents back. Those things do help you get the fact that you're lying. And you don't have to yell, you don't have to scream, you don't have to do any of that. Just see to it that you help them face the truth. Instead of, I've got a liar, he's going to end up in the penitentiary. No, do something right now today to help him face the truth. Okay, I've got someone who is a quitter. Is he really? Be sure first that this is a real problem with your child. Is he a quitter? Sometimes, we make them finish everything when actually we don't finish always every book. My husband has 4 books going at once, and if he doesn't like this one for a while, I'm glad he doesn't do that with women. If he doesn't like this one for a while, he uses this one. But he's not a quitter. I mean, that is not his pattern, so there's no problem. If you have a child who wants to quit something or, wants to do something else, we'll come back to it. But if it is a real problem, then help them go ahead and finish. Get in there and help them finish it. And isn't it great? We're accomplishing. Instead of giving them, all kinds of yelling and screaming. Loud girls, or that type of thing. I think when I talked about the girls back there a week ago Sunday morning, I think that was tempering their behavior. Rather than my yelling and screaming at them and hitting them over the head and telling them, giving them a mean look. Quit doing that. Don't you know you're in church? No, they really don't, probably. They've probably never been to church that much. And if they were probably had sat behind somebody like me. Maybe they don't. I think I was helping them temper it at least that day. And maybe they'll remember me for a lifetime. That's my prayer. What about the kid who talks before he thinks, acts before he thinks, reaches for the ketchup, doesn't look at anything else, spills stuff all the time on the table? How about telling him before you go to the supper table, now if you'll go slowly and use both hands and watch me and then give him a wink, hey, you got it, you're making it through without spilling anything. Instead, you're just a klutz. It's a lot more fun labeling, and it takes a lot less time than to temper a child. You say, we act like we've just got these kids dropped on us. When somebody's worked on kids, people will say to them, I have people here in town the woman's just, that's what she does, is take care of her little kids. I mean, she works with them, plays with them. She's got a backyard full of, I went into a regular backyard that just, and it just looks like a wonderland. And she got it, cheaply and all this type of thing. Her kids are her work, they're her job, her hobby, lots of these things. And then she takes them to the grocery store, and people go, "You are sure lucky." Like they just got dropped on her. Good kids just happened to get dropped on her. One person said to this person when she had her first child, the child said, "You'd better be careful because the next one might not be like that." Believe me, the next one won't be like that unless you do the same work you did with the first one. Or whatever you have to do, this child will be different. I don't know why we're always saying this child is completely different from this child in the same family. They always are. There's very few families who say they're so alike. That's God helps you stay interested and challenged that way, because you think you've got figured out as a different child. Tempering a child. Don't think, well, I've got a loud one, I've got a quiet one, and that's just the way they are. You can't change them, but you can help temper them until they've added so much to their lives, they almost look changed. Talking before he thinks. Okay, the shy one. Not people, this is in my craw. I got to get this out. This is really bad. This is not teaching of the Holy Spirit or anybody else. This is just me. Not answering. They don't answer an adult. They don't greet people. You don't prepare them for what to say. And I actually used to think that shy and quiet meant perfect. I was so, because I was so loud and everything, I just thought if you were shy and quiet, you were probably perfect. Now I know, you're just as bad as I am. I've known that for quite a while, and you go underground with it. In fact, you're worse, because at least I announce it. They know what they got right up front. How many of you are shy to this day? Put your hand up. Okay, put your hand down. No, I shouldn't have said all this other before I said that. No, really, because I'm going to ask you next, how many of you wish you had gotten over it as a child, that someone would have helped you get it over it as a child? Sure. And of course it takes time. We're going to grandma's. Now grandma might say this. Now what do you say to grandma? Now let's practice, and not shove them out, or not say, she's shy. Like it's a virtue. She won't speak to anybody. What a good girl. No, she's a bad girl, just like I'm a bad girl. Can you tell I'm upset about this? Irresponsibility, not putting away toys, not feeding animals, leaving books at school. Do it with them. Supervise or at least supervise their work. Plan on their not doing it. You know what? They don't ever do it, and we act like every day like we're shocked. They've never come home and fed the dog. And every day we go, you didn't feed the dog. How long is it going to take us to get, they're not feeding the dog. They're not going to do it, honey. You're going to have to say, you said, I taught him, but somehow he forgot. But haven't you forgotten too? Haven't you forgotten some things? I sure have. Things I have known, I no longer know them. And I'm having to learn over again. Like I said, I've got the things I'm working on right now that I start talking. There's hope for healing for me. I want to be a rainbow and clouds. So I'm wanting to make every moment a rich moment, a healing moment. I'm wanting to do more with spiritual reproduction. If it's just smiling at a girl. I want more books, if the people will all do them. Well, I want to clean up my talk more. I do not want to set myself up for disappointment. People say, but you have planned on your daughter being here, and she's been in New Guinea for 5 years, and of course not even been able to attend this spectacular. And now you had planned on this, and you advertise it and everything, but I know things change. And so why expect what you advertise to happen? People don't believe what we advertise. Just believe what you see when you get here. I saw my son-in-law talking to those boys, as sick as he was, barely able to, And I saw him talking to those boys before we left the other night when they were going down. He said, you've got your school books. You know your schoolwork. It doesn't matter. the people do know their schoolwork too, and they will. They're people from New Guinea and everything, and they know them well. But for that way about children, they got children too. Keep them all in school, and they do know. But if they didn't, if they didn't, he said, you're responsible to see this is done, not the lady. You're responsible for it. And they're looking at him like a coach in a huddle. And they're looking like this, and he's over like this, and the boys are looking, and they're like in a huddle getting their instructions. 5 minutes of instructions. But I had noticed earlier in the day that there was an activity in the hotel where they were, where, as sick and weak as Jeff was, he was supervising them having fun for 3 hours. I thought, 3 hours of fun to 5 hours of lecture. He'll get by with it, I believe. They didn't mind listening to him at all. They didn't mind. It didn't seem like to me. Your kid's bossy. People, we put our kids and tell them to boss their brothers and sisters, and then don't want them to be bossy. They can't be in charge of their brothers and sisters. They can't do it and stay the way you want them. You see, we want them to be bossy when they're supposed to be bossy, or at least leading, and we want them to be over here followers, and they're not adults yet, and we don't even have it down. And sometimes we don't want our kids to be grown up. We say they don't know whether they're grown-ups or kids. They don't know which they are. Okay, but do you know which you want them to be? Don't they get to be 21 and you want them to be a kid again sometimes? We don't know which one we want them to be sometimes. If they're bossy and soloists and only soloists, praise them for getting in a choir and blending. Praise them for anything you see them do in a group. Tell them why you like it and what they did right. Make sure they don't hear Miss Bosch, you, in the home. Where are they getting it? Where are they getting that talk? Do this, do that, do the other thing. You know, where are they getting it? Okay, they're bored. Your kids, they're bored. I'm bored. What's there to do? They don't know how to find their own interests, maybe. What was said about you don't know their favorites. If they don't know their favorites, you can ask questions until you can help them figure out what their favorite is. Help them find it. Expand their interest capacity. Go to a bookstore. Watch what they go to in that bookstore. Where do they go? You'll find out what their interests are. Visit pet shops. Watch what pets they go toward. Visit toy stores. Watch what they seem to like. I mean, before you go in there, say, there's no money. This is just looking to see what you like, you know, or something like that. What do you like best here? Ask questions like this. What do you like best? What do you like least? You know, all these types of things. A lady sitting here had a mother who was an alcoholic. That mother was responsible for her, when she was drunk, for her having an accident that left some permanent damage physically and emotionally. That mother couldn't be visited after this girl was married. After 5, she'd be drunk. She let up on the drinking sometimes and toward the last and everything, but she passed away several years ago. And that woman says to me things like this: Mom had out candles and candy and music on, and Dad doesn't have that now. I go, good night. If candles and candy and music can make it for you and you can go get drunk, does that tell you something? Have a live house. Get things going. Make it interesting in your house. Have something alive going. You know, so you won't be a boring. You know, so the house won't be dead and boring. Tampering a child, finding out. Now, some of them want to tell you their favorite so fast you want to push them back in. You know, you don't want to hear it. Renee Cox took my granddaughter when they were down there for a missions conference to Toys R Us, and boy, they've got those boys, so those boys don't tell you what they want, and I don't think, do they, Bev? I don't think they do. I mean, it's hard to get it out of them. Do you get something out of them? I think it looks like you got something out of him as much as you had him that first week he was sick. But anyway, it's very hard, isn't it, to get what they want. But the girl hasn't been quite trained yet. she's a little younger and she's not quite trained. And Mrs. Cox was taking them to Toys R Us, and I think she had a little something in mind that a little 9-year-old girl told that they might like. And they were going, but she said, Lindsay, Miss Cox said, but Lindsay, I think probably you're here now, so you know, Miss Cox, you really nice and everything, so you'll know what you'd like yourself. And Lindsay said, it would be too expensive. She was reeling her in, and she said, and she'd already been to another Toys R Us with a gift certificate, and she'd already seen the baby that she wanted, the baby doll that she wanted. Her mother wouldn't let her have it, gift certificate or not, $50. I mean, it does everything, but you know, can't tell you, you know, talk to you. It does everything. I won't go into what all it does. But anyway, you know, they went up there, and she did $50, and Ms. Cox said, I don't think anything you'd want would be too expensive. So she's got that doll, and she goes back and forwards from a black leather jacket and four-wheelers to feeding her doll. I mean, so strength and beauty, she's got it. She's got it, that's for sure. But tampering, she's going to have some more tampering, because she knew to say it was too expensive, but she was also letting it be known what she wanted. Okay, but you got a kid that complains all the time. Negative, I didn't get to do. I never get what I want. What would work? How about saying never? Didn't we do this? And think about some things they did do. Not, you know, instead of a big, now don't act like that, don't talk like that. Now, did you get to do this? And get off on some talk of what they did get to do. And it's on and on and on and on and on, with lots and lots of characteristics. And some of you are saying, my child's opposite from that completely. That's okay. Then still, how would you temper that? If I can get this all fixed, and we'll try to have it in Christian Womanhood, and also rules on cell phone, Christian Womanhood in the future. But you don't have to have a child in Sunday school. You can make the difference. He can be tempered for a half hour, even in one morning. I've seen kids change right before my eyes for that half hour. I realize it does, you know, it's got to take more than that. You Sunday school teachers, you bus workers, you know, you've got a bunch of kids coming into a church, and they're getting out all screaming and yelling, you know, and you know, my desire to be like Jesus. They start quieting down about 10 minutes, 15 minutes for the church, until you're just, my desire to be like. You're tampering their behavior, and they walk off the bus very quietly. You can make such a difference. You can be the bow in a cloud of a child. I plan to be that and hope I can be. I'm going to go over to the high to teens sometime today and tell them they changed my life last year. I hope I'm going to be the bow in the cloud of some of your teens. People, I'll be 67 November 11th. It's been, things are not real easy. But boy, these kids sure make it all worthwhile. Not because of my age, because of my sickness. But boy, these kids make it all worthwhile. I've never had asked a question I had asked last week, because I was in the heart unit. You know, they always ask, do you have a living will? And I said no, and I don't know why I don't. I don't even know why I don't. I'm scared they'll do it too fast. Maybe I'm scared of dying. I have some fear about how you die, the pain, but I don't know that a nice clean death I always thought would be good, until I almost had it, and then I didn't want that either. But then they ask, this is a regular question they ask, if you do stroke out or whatever you do, cardiac arrest. If you do cardiac arrest, you want a full code. And without even blinking an eye, I said yes. And you know what I thought of when I said it? The two girls. I thought, if you can do that yet with two girls, you're not ready to have a partial code. I want a full code. Do you?